This is to help you get your power cranks installed on your Cycleops Pro Series trainer. First thing to do is to remove the chain guard. This requires removing 3 bolts using a 4mm Allen wrench. You will see from this that it is also easier if you take the pedals off, especially the right side, before doing this step. The next step involves removing the right crank arm, which is integrated with the chain ring. Using an 8mm Allen wrench, you remove the crank bolt and then use a tool designed for the ISIS bottom bracket. Here we have a Park Tool CCP4 with the wide pusher surface. Use this tool to screw into the threads and then push off the right crank arm. You have to use your own 52-tooth chain ring. You can confirm that it's correct by holding it up and make sure that it is the same diameter and matches perfectly. You're now going to mount this to the power crank's spider, and you use the 5 chain ring bolts and adapters that you also will have to supply. These are easily obtained through your local bike shop. The chain ring needs to be mounted on the inside of the power crank spider to get proper alignment. Then partially put the chain on the chain ring and put the power cranks onto the axle surface, aligning the spines up, and then once you're at this position, then you can walk the chain the rest of the way onto the chain ring. You can now finish mounting the assembly to the axle by using the crank bolt that you took off before. It is important that you remove that rubber spacer from the top of the crank bolt. That usually comes off fairly easy or can be pried off if need be. In this instance, notice that the cranks were not put on quite enough to reach the threads, so I had to whack them in a little bit further such that I could grab and start the crank bolt going in. Be sure that the crank bolt get tightened very tightly, otherwise it's likely to vibrate loose while you're riding. It should be taken down till it hits the stops, or you can go no further. I removed the crank arm here only because I felt like it was getting in my way as I was turning that wheel. You can do that or not, it's not important, because it can be easily replaced once the assembly is attached properly. It's now time to put on the end cap, which holds the crank arm to the spindle adapter. If you fail to remove that rubber spacer, the end cap will not go down all the way, and your power cranks will have too much lateral play, and if you have the dual mode locking version, it is unlikely to lock up properly. If you have the dual mode, go ahead and engage the locking collar at this time. This is necessary so when you're doing the left side, you will be able to easily make sure that the cranks are installed at 180 degrees when they're in the locking position. The reason we do the right crank first is because it's easier to do this next step for the dual modes with the left crank. We're now doing a trial and error thing to make sure that to try to get the cranks to line up at 180 degrees when in the lock position. The ISIS has 10 splines, but our locking position has 8 settings, so that there's only one position where everything will line up properly. So we're just going to walk through these different positions, trying them until we find one where the cranks line up at 180 degrees in the lock position. In this instance, it took me 3 tries to get this, and then once we're there, we know we're right and everything else will work fine. The maximum it'll ever take anybody is 4 different tries. We now go ahead and again finish down the installation of this crank to the bottom bracket. Again, don't forget to remove that rubber spacer from the top of the crank bolt. If you don't do that, the end cap will not fit properly. Once everything is tight, then go ahead and unlock both mechanisms and make sure that both cranks freewheel backwards easily without any binding. If there is a little bit of binding, it is okay to back off on the end cap about 1/8 or 1/4 of a turn just to give the clutches a little more room. Next, you reinstall the chain cover, and then you're ready to install the pedals. For those unfamiliar with bicycles, the left pedal is reverse or left threaded. So when trying to take it off, you're going to turn backwards from the normal way that you're used to doing it. The right crank is normal or right threaded, so it will come off in the normal counterclockwise direction. Once the pedals are off, you then they're ready to install onto the power cranks. Use our pedal adapter. The right side goes in, they're marked right and left, and the right one will go into the onto the right slot. Use the stainless steel washer, which is necessary to prevent damage to the aluminum as the pedal tightens down. Threading it in, notice we're now turning clockwise here on the right one, and as you get it in, it is sometimes difficult to do this and make sure it's at the right length. So just get it in first and then adjust the length by backing off about 2 turns, giving it enough room, and then you can adjust it up or down to the length that you want. The length will be marked on the inside of the pedal. Once you get it to that length, hold it in place, snug it up again about 2 turns until it's tight, and then tighten down, and you're all through. Repeat, of course, on the left side, remembering that the left pedal is reverse or left threaded. When you're through with this, you're now ready to ride your bike for the first time. After each ride in the beginning, check and make sure the crank bolts, end caps, and pedals are remaining tight. If they have loosened some, retighten them again with more vigor. Congratulations, you have now put together one of the best exercise bikes in the world. Happy training.